The Egyptian religion from E.A. Wallis Budge's The Dwellers on the Nile, the life, history, religion, and literature of the ancient Egyptians. They make their trial after a man's death. His actions are set near him as evidence. In the other world's existence is everlasting, and he who puts this out of his mind is a fool. He who, being guiltless, attains to that place has an existence there like that of what are considered gods, and like the everlasting lords, he moves unfettered from place to place. Well, certain beings have respite, but that's surely what they're talking about. But yeah, not God, but certainly light beings, fire beings, a lot of the beings that are considered gods. If you have a good afterlife, it is, those reed fields beyond, what we got. Anyways, tra tra nutsu, the chiefs, our assessors, are well known from other texts. From the Book of Gates, we learn that they kept the registers of Yusur, which contained the names of all those who were in the other world, and the Book of the Dead, chapters 30b, chapter 30b shows that they watched the weighing of the heart of a man on the great scales, and stood ready to intervene and bring forward any proof of its sinfulness. A very ancient tradition asserted that Osiris was judged by the great entities of Heliopolis. So the being that took on the title of Osiris, there's the hint right there that there's higher powers than it, or at least things can group together and be higher than it. Heliopolis. What's the name of Heliopolis? But anyways, and that he was declared innocent by the charges brought against him by Set, his brother and enemy, chiefly through the good offices of Thoth and scribe of the entities. Dahote is Thoth, who acted as his advocate. The descriptions of the Last Judgment by King Kate makes no mention of any advocate, so we may assume that the introduction of such a helper of the deceased is a characteristic of the system of Yusur. There is no text known at the present which gives us in a connected form the history of Yusur, but the work of Plutarch, De Isid et Asirid, and the fact that can be collected from the inscriptions enable us to construct one with considerable accuracy. Just like there really was a king Hor, so her, Horus, later divinized or got to be put the name on something. Some of these things like Krishna and it was like servant of Krishna and all sorts of stuff. People don't literally think this was, the god of light is our king, that Osiris in Egyptian, Yusur, Urius, Usur, was a king of Egypt and was therefore part man and part god, according to the myth. He reigned wisely, taught his subjects law, order, and religion, and by the introduction of cereals and the vine and a superior form of agriculture, made his country prosperous. Could these rules of the gods be the ages where people look to a particular prophet and then they all got divinized? Think about that. Having ordered his own kingdom, he set out to visit other countries, and he instructed foreign nations to their great advantage. During his absence, his wife, Yust, administered his kingdom, but she was greatly troubled by her brother Set, who tried to undo all the good that Yusur had done. When Yusur returned, Set determined to kill him and to seize his wife, with whom he was in love. By a stratagem, he made Yusur to lie down in a box, and when he had done so, Set and his friends nailed the top of it down and covered it with lead, and Yusur was suffocated. The mental construction of consciousness is a limitation, but it can be a reference to the real reality. The square and the cube and all that isn't saying that we're limiting God. It's that we can actually set something up that will help us reference God. But all these references of God, it's not like God's this shape or God's, a jackal head or a cat or any of these things. They're their language. But lie down in the box, and when he had done so, Set and his friends nailed the top of it down and covered it with lead, and Osiris was suffocated. Lead is the metal of Set, and 72. Where do you think the Goetia 72 comes from? They then threw the box into the Nile, and its waters carried it through the delta and across the sea to Byblos, where a large erica tree grew up around it. Yes, found the box and hid it, but Set discovered it, and tearing it open, dragged out the body of Yasir and broke it into 14 pieces. The 14 senses. You got sight and taste and touch and some... what was a beard? What's the beard mean? But anyways, there's 14 bits. Yust set out and collected these pieces, and wherever she found one, she buried it and built a sepulcher over it. This sort of thing was done with the Buddha, too. Or at least one of the Buddhas. Osiris returned from the other world and urged Horus to fight Set.